Hey guys, how's it going? This is Max Bailey and your local flight instructor. Today I just have a little bit of time. I'm going to do a discovery flight for one of the potential students. So I'm prepping the aircraft and thought about, because some of my students requested to actually record a video recording the pre-flight, I thought it'd be a good chance to describe the pre-flight. So first thing, I situated all my materials on the aircraft, so I have an organized flight deck, and then I'll continue to start the checklist. So pre-flight checklist, and I go item by item, put my hand in the checklist, and I move my finger down as I cover each item. So I make sure lanes are off, master is off, so I look at it, ensure they're both off, and then I go master on, then F is on. And while that loads, I'm gonna go ahead and check the flaps. So I check one knob of flaps, and when I see it, to make sure that the flaps are actually going down. I personally like doing this just because I will check for each stage of the flaps, just to make sure they actually stop at that setting. And while the FS loads up, I'm going to check my lights. So taxi, nav, landing light, and I'll take you through it. I have my position light right there, and it's blinking. Then I come down here, and I have my navigation lights, and my strobe light is actually blinking. I hear an aircraft coming in, so I have to be careful not to get into the way. I'm just going to go behind the airplane, away from danger, to check the other light. That's Jason and another student working towards their flight lesson. Over here I see green light, which is navigation light, and I see the strobe light as well. And last, we have taxi and landing light. So the difference is because taxi light is going to be actually facing downwards towards the ground, and landing light is going to have no tint. While I do that, to make sure to, now that I'm here, remove the pitot cover off so I can locate it on the flight deck. Okay, see you back inside. Perfect, welcome back in. So now that I have my pitot cover, I'm just going to locate it and actually switch it for my fuel strainer, which I'll use to open the cowling, check the oil, and also to test the fuel, make sure that there's no contamination in there. So before I continue, I'll resume my checklist. So I come back to where I left. I check all the lights so I can turn taxi, nav, and landing light off. And then flaps are fully extended. Fuel, we're going to check the quantity. So make sure the database is current, September 5th, 2024. And today we're on August 17th, so we're good. Then I'm going to click continue. And I go into the engine indication. And over here I see we have 10 and 8. So right is the lowest, so I'll switch to the lowest tank now. And 10 plus 8 is 18. That is plenty fuel for the time that we're going to fly today. So we have enough sufficient fuel. And I make sure that, so now that I check the fuel, I record the hubs time. So hubs time is located right here. And it's reading 2941.3. So I'll grab the flight log for the aircraft and I'll write it down. So today is the 17th. Discovery. My name is Max, and hubs out is 2941.3. So, and we're doing a local flight. I'll show you guys. So, right here we have the time in the day, discovery flight instructor, and time. So hubs out, it's total hours, reads on the screen, and we got to make sure that it matches the previous entry. So now that we find that out, we're going to continue with the pre-flight. So grab the checklist one more time, make sure that I've covered all the items. Now the FS comes off, master comes off, and I'll do it one more time. So flight controls check, we're going to go left control up, right up, left down, then center, and we check the elevator fully up, fully down. Alright, now that that's completed, I come back here and make sure that I have fire extinguishers on board. So for 9 Lima, it's going to be in the baggage compartment. So I'm lifting this cover and I see that the fire extinguisher is there in case of an fire, so you can actually actuate it, and aero, so airworthiness, registration, operation values, manuals, so POH, and all of the display manuals are on board the aircraft, and weight and balance copy as well. So that's going to be between and for the aircraft, airworthiness registration is here, and the rest of the documentation is going to be on the binder. So let me try outside for the outside check. Alright guys, so my checklist, my fuel sum, and I have the keys of the aircraft. So let's see, why do I look for each one of them? So I usually start here at the very tail of the aircraft, near where the antennas are located. So I'll have my checklist in hand, and I'll start the right here. So the first thing that I look is going to be the landing gear. So there's 5 items I look for. First is tire condition, so I make sure all the stripes of the tire are there. I cannot see any visible wire or any significant wear and tear on the tire. Then I look at the level, so make sure that the tire is not fully de-inflated, but not too inflated. So about that much height from the ground is what I'm looking for, what you guys can see right now. And so that's a tire condition and pressure. Then I look for the brake pads, the brake discs. So that's right there, there's the brake pads and brake discs. So I make sure all of that is located right there. Then I look for the brake pin. So the brake pin is going to be located right there. And it's a silver pin crossing the center of the tire. And then I look for any hydraulic leaks, anything that can be wrong with the landing gear strap. Make sure that there is no bends or any paint has fallen off. Once we're done, I stand up here and I come back into looking for another component. So I have GPS is going to be this one right here. And I have ADS-B. Then I come over here and I have antenna number 1, so communication 1. With that, I come right down and I see communication number 2. After that, I have ELT antenna, it's located right here, and VOR antenna. It's easy to remember because it's shaped like a V. After that, we just have transponder antenna, but that's located at the very nose of the aircraft, so I'll show you in a second. We continue in the empennage, so making sure that all the screws are in, and underneath the empennage I can see that all the screws are in as well. Then horizontal stabilizer, I'm going to press down on it, and I'm looking for any sounds. I'm also looking for any bends on the stabilizer. Usually we want to do it at the attachment points, on the closest part of the fixed horizontal stabilizer. Otherwise we can damage because there's a lot of force put in on the stabilizer. Then down here I see the external data plate, so make sure that is also here. It's a required item, otherwise we cannot go fly. And now I just inspect the general condition of the elevator, so make sure that the access panels have all their screws, the trim tab has the bolt and crown, and that everything overall condition is good. After I'm done with that, I'm gonna go and try to test for the elevator. So as you can see, the elevator is not going up all the way, and the reason is because we have the aileron that it's not placed on the center position. If you pay attention to the flight controls, they're going to move right to the center. So now the seats are not going to be obstructing the elevator. I'm going to go ahead and check the elevator one more time. So I go fully up. It looks like the aileron's moved again. So I do it one more time. This time I'm going to visually make sure. It's a little windy, so the ailerons want to fly. Alright, so right now I go fully up, fully down. I see the actuator moving right in the center, and that should be about it. That should be what we're looking for. After that, I want to make sure that I never take the trim tab because it's a fragile control surface, or a secondary control surface. So I will take it from where the wires or the bolts are set, and I'm going to look underneath, make sure that everything is also good, and come right back here to the vertical fin. I'm going to push on the vertical fin, make sure that nothing bends, and I do it always from the attachment points. Other things to capture, we're going to see there is a bolt here, and there's also a bolt right there. so make sure those are in. Then on the bottom part of the rudder fin, I'm gonna try to move it, make sure that both bolts are in. We're gonna see some paint here. That just is to ensure that the bolt hasn't rotated ever since it was tied down. So paint is aligned or it's still on, and then the cable has tension. So I usually just try pressing against it. If it doesn't touch this, that means there's enough tension for me. And I can remove the first strap. So just as you guys saw, I push into the strap and then set it back in place. After that, I'm gonna come here and look at the bolts from the elevator. I also realized I missed the bolts on the other side. So make sure the bolts are there with the paint and continue. Now we look at the right part of the elevator, make sure everything looks good, and we're gonna press on the right horizontal stabilizer. Then continue with the empennage, everything looks good, and I have another opportunity to check the landing gear. So hey guys, how's it going? I had to go do a discovery flight, so got interrupted, but just landed and I finished that pre-flight I started. So I'll just continue. I left right here on the right part of the empennage, so I come down here and then I'll make sure to look for the main landing gear. So at this point I'm just looking for, again, tire condition, tire level, then I make sure the brake pads and the brake disc is in good shape. Then I want to make sure that no hydraulics fluids are in the ground, and I take a look at the other as well. And then from here, looking at the pin, which is right there. Cool. After that, we go for the left flap. So on the flap, there's a couple of components we're going to be looking for. So first, we want to be looking for the actuator. So the actuator is this little knob. I'm just going to make sure that that's free play. So usually when you twist it, it's going to move. And then there should be 2 bolts on the side. Whenever we touch the control surfaces, we want to make sure when we follow this line is the rivets. So that's where all the strength can be put into the surface. Here is hollow, so we have to be careful handling the flap of the aeroplane. So we pull, and we pull. And after that, we want to come here underneath and make sure that all the bolts are in place. Then we have the aileron. So the aileron is going to move the control surfaces. So the flight controls is going to move just like you see it right now. So we're looking for full deflection upwards, full deflection downwards, and then we're going to look for the free play right here. So we got to make sure that we use one hand to secure the aileron, so in case the wind or maybe other person comes in and moves the control, that we're not losing our finger in this little guillotine. So we put a hand and then we check for free play. So you're going to want to move this actuator, and then once that's done, you come all the way to the corner, check the aileron goes all the way up, and make sure for the bolts right there, and at last we have the last bolts right here. We come right back. This is going to be on 9 Romeo Lima. We have a ground adjustable trim tab. So this one is just adjusted by maintenance, and as you can see, it looks like there's a bolt right here that's missing. So that would be an inspection item. Then on the wing, we're going to make sure that we secure the wing. So we're going to be looking for any noise, any awkward bending on the rivets, or any missing screws. So I'm going to apply it first upward, downward, then backward, forward. I'm going to push on the wing, and then I'm going to pull on the wing, make sure that the wing stays there and there's not abnormal noises. Then on the leading edge, just make sure overall condition, so no bends. And right here we have the fuel. So right now I just left the key inside the screw, but I would just open for the fuel. If the fuel quantity is visible, that means it's 7. If it's at the top, that means 19. So total, we have capability for 39.6 gallons of fuel, and usable we have 38.6. So just a fun fact. And underneath the lower camber of the wing, we're going to come across this little guy. So that is a fuel vent, meaning that if this is not clear, there's not going to be enough air as the fuel is consumed, so it's going to create vacuum. just fuel exhaustion. Alright, so then we'll continue over here. We have the main air fresh air intake for the cabin. So this connects right here. And I'll wait. No, that guy's not coming here. Cool. Sorry, just helicopter noise is the worst noise. Cool. Now I'm gonna come here and open the cowling. So first, before I open the cowling, I make sure the cowling conditioning is good. I usually snap on it, make sure that the bolts are not coming out, and then I'll open the cowling. So just 180-degree twist to the left. I usually just like to bring the bolts all the way out, and then I open it all. So over here, we're gonna look for a couple of different things. So this is gonna be the fuel hydraulic fluid. Make sure that the fluid is still in place. Then we have the liquid cooling or the anti-freezing. Make sure it's above the minimum mark, and then also that the cap, it's locked. So right now, if we see there's a little red cap over there on top, that's locked. Then over here we have the main hose intake. So we're gonna make sure that there's no holes in there and that it's secured. And at last we have the oil sump. So I was just running this airplane. I know for a fact that it has sufficient oil, but I'll demonstrate how to look for it. So I put the cap over here, and then I'm gonna do a process called burping. So for burping, just gotta make sure that I'm not on the way of the propeller. So if I put the propeller down and my head is here, I'm gonna snap my head. So the best way to do it is grab the propeller lightly, not wrapping your fingers tightly around it. So as you guys can see, I'm not tightening my fingers tightly around it, I just have my fingers on top. And then I'm gonna put my feet outside of the range of the propeller, and I'm gonna push downwards. So I'm gonna push downwards, and then right here I'm gonna lightly grip it, so whenever it actually overshoots and the piston, the compression cycle is set, it doesn't come straight towards me, so I control it. If I wouldn't do it, this would happen. Okay, so I keep pushing, and then let's see, it didn't happen there. So let's see, it will happen here. You see, that happens. So to avoid that, I just not tightly. Just try to keep my head outside of the range of the propeller, and I don't have to do it super fast. Actually, the smoother it is, the easier it is. So this speed is what we desire. Alright, so I just heard some burping coming in from there. This is a little hot because I was just flying this airplane, but I'll burn myself for you. So right there, looks like it's half indication. So as a memory item, we need to know that we use Aeroshell Sport Plus 4, and we have a capacity of 3.7 quarters. Other things that we're looking for, bonus points, right there we have the 12-volt battery right here. Make sure that maybe the battery points are attached. Then down there we have the fuel control unit over there. And down here we have the gascolator. So before we go down there, I'm just gonna make sure everything is nice and locked. And even before I close, a little bonus point, always double check. This is closed, this is full, and there's a cap over there. Cool. So I'll just close it. Right, it should snap just like that. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now I can come down here and make sure there's nothing on the main intake valve. Then down here we have the main landing gear. So same items. We're looking for bolts. We're making sure that the composition of the landing gear, there's no cracks, the level is good, and the condition is overall good. And then down here we have the gascolator. So the gascolator is going to be 1 out of 3 sump points that we have on this airplane. So we're going to use this little probe to make sure that there's no contamination on the engine. So I press consistently to get about half an indication of fuel. So about right there. And make sure that it stops. If it doesn't stop, all you need to do is to pick it again, and then so the lock comes all the way down. And I'm going to wait for this helicopter. converts. So right here we're looking for the fuel contamination. So we're looking for the color. We're also looking for any bubbles. And at last, I know my students know me for this, but I do love the smell. And it's also a familiar smell. So, you know, I think it's a good thing to just make sure that it matches the smell that you're used to. And over here we have the transponder antenna, and underneath the tank we have the last or one of the tank subs. So okay, I make sure everything is good there. The reason why there's 3 points is just the 3 lowest points where the fuel can go to. That's because contamination usually flows towards the lowest point. And again, previously I removed the chocks, but since the airplane is already parked, I just thought about finishing the video. I was halfway through, so why not? Alright, and now I step outside of the airplane and I just make sure, obviously there's no one left, and we come and look for the overall condition of the airplane. So we're just looking for any asymmetry on the airplane, make sure the landing gear looks good from far away, and sometimes you can tell some details on the aircraft. So I can see the canopy is a little dirty over there, so that would be something I would change. Now for the propeller, there's 3 main things. So first, we have a ground adjustable pitch propeller. So that means that the pitch of the propeller can be adjusted only on the ground, because that's a light sport limitation. So what I'm going to make sure is that this has been actually locked by the mechanics by grabbing it kind of tightly towards the root and then twisting it. If I notice any twist, that's an inspection. I cannot go fly. Okay, so I try to twist it. Usually use my both hands, but right now I have a camera on one, so I can't use it. And now the next item, I look for any nicks on the propeller. So I usually just run my nail through the propeller blade, especially the leading edge of the propeller, which has a silver stripe. This is the part that's going to usually impact against any debris. And if the nail stops, that means that it's probably an inspection item. After that, so one is the propeller doesn't spin, the other one is nicks on the propeller, and the third one is going to be the spinner roll, or the spinner. So you have some bolts right here, and you're looking for the condition itself. So just make sure there's no holes. This is aluminum, so it's very expensive. I've heard it can cost over $2,000 to fix this alone. So make sure to treat it with care. Over here we have, very important, you have the oil the oil cooler and the radiator for the cylinder heads. So what we want to make sure is that the fins are all intact, that if we press lightly on it, it doesn't go anywhere, as well with the radiator. So fins are intact, it doesn't go anywhere. And bonus point, you want to make sure that all of the screws are tight every time you go fly. Due to vibrations, this screw do tend to get a little loose over time, so just tighten it out and it should be all good. Cool. Next step, we come over here and we have the right part or the left part of the cowling. So make sure, again, that's all the screws are on and there's no abnormalities. Then we come over here and we have the PIC, or the left seat air intake, and the temperature probe over here. So this is the outside air temperature. That's going to tell us what's the temperature of the air, and the exhaust. So we want to make sure there's no gas or gas leaks or any cracks on the exhaust. This can cause for the fumes to go inside the flight deck, and of course we can get hypoxia. So over here we have the left wing sump port, I guess that's how you call it, sump port. So I'm gonna press it and just make sure that I look for the 3 main items, which is color, contamination, and debris. So I use this one because I love it. And put it away. Sweet. Now we're in front of the landing gear, so make sure the condition, as you can see, the wear and tear on the gear is overall good right now. I have a view of the disc. I can also tell from the other landing gear. And I look for the pin. So I see that the pin is right there. can see the overall condition of the lower camber of the wing right here. Perfect. So now we move on to the next item. I make sure that the leading edge is all clear. Fuel cap is on. I would open it to make sure if there is any indication. That means that we have above 7 gallons. If it's anywhere in between, it just means above 7 gallons. If it's anywhere below visible fuel, that means below 7 gallons. So that's the only thing about this airplane. We can only tell if it's 7 or if it's full tanks, which is 19.3. So then we look for the fuel vent, make sure that it's clear, not obstructed. And I previously removed the pitot cover off, but I am going to show you what I'm looking for. So right here I'm looking for the ram air intake. So this measures the dynamic pressure of the air, and it gives us a reading on our airspeed indicator. The one right underneath is the angle of attack indicator. Be careful not to touch it because the grease on your fingers can actually obstruct this hole. And underneath it, we have 3 separate thoughts. This is going to be static holes and a drain hole. Comparison to other airplanes, they might have what's called a static port, which usually is a hole located in the front or in the rear of the airplane. This airplane also has a static hole, however this is inside the engine cowling. So according to the manual, we are not required to check it. We would just see if it failed. So for now, we'll say that it's clear. And we continue. We have the landing gear, so again we want to make sure the screws are all set. And again, I'm verifying that all my screws on my aileron and flap are in place, so bolt and screws. And now I come to the left part of the wing. So I make sure I go up, down, forward, back, push and pull, and I'm looking for any discrepancies on the wing. And then over here I start looking at the aileron, so make sure there's full deflection, up and down. And now here I make sure that I hold it. I'm going to hold it tightly with my leg and make sure there's no one around, and then I'm going to demonstrate how I test for free play. So you see right there, that is the aileron actuator, and make sure there's no obstructions to it. Then there's a bolt right there, make sure the bolt is there, and I check for the flap. So I just give it a little pull, make sure that the flap is not moving and that the actuator is free play. And just like that, we get back to the point where we started. So that's basically it. After this, I would do my final walk around. So I would check that the tie downs are unlocked. Then I would make sure the overall condition, fuel caps, make sure the fuel caps are on. Then the pitot tube is removed. The chunks are removed as well. All the tie downs are clear. You'd be surprised. You can actually get into the airplane and find out you haven't removed the pitot cover when you're on takeoff roll. So something we really want to avoid, and this can always be prevented by just a simple walk around before your flight. So I'll leave you guys here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know if you can give me some feedback. I would love to